All right. Is there a handle to open? All right, now that they're gone. All right. So hopefully everyone's first couple of weeks of school have been going well, or work if you're on co-op. Who here has heard of Prisma outside of the context of this club? Couple. Well, you guys are in this club. You've heard of Prisma outside of this club? Oh, you guys use Prisma?
No, we just like talked about it.
Oh, we talked about it? Okay. So for those that didn't hear, Dr. Fontenot is the database design teacher, and I guess he talked about Prisma in this class. So Prisma is a buzzword. It's an ORM. It's an object relational mapping tool, mapper for short. And it allows us to write type-safe TypeScript code to interact with our database. So we use PostgreSQL. You can use Prisma for Postgres, SQLite, probably, I mean, pretty much anything with SQL. I think those are the two big ones that it supports. We use PostgreSQL. So basically all it does is it translates our TypeScript code into SQL that it then runs against the database, because the database only can interpret and understand SQL. Who here knows what SQL is? Okay, good. So SQL is structured query language. It's basically code for databases or SQL databases. So like it's how you tell the database to create an object or remove an object or fetch an object. That's pretty much all it does. So the big thing with Prisma is the Prisma schema. This allows you to create objects like they look in TypeScript and have them create tables in SQL, which are where objects are stored in the database. So if you had an application where you had like teams or whatever, could be like a sports team or anything like this. You could create an object like this where you have a team ID. This is how you identify any individual team inside of your table. And then it's just some whatever fields you want. So team name, a budget, a description, members, and you're able to declare all the types here in string. People generally understand like primitive types, ints, strings, booleans. Everybody understands that. If you don't, raise your hand. But like an int is a number, a string is an array of characters or a word. It allows you to specify defaults. So when you create a team, you're going to have to explicitly tell Prisma what the team name is going to be, but you won't have to tell it what the description is, because it's just going to assume by default you do not have a description or an empty string for a description. And then people might be like, whoa, user, never heard of that primitive type before. That's because it's not. It's another model. It's like team. So it allows you in SQL, you have these things called relations. So a relation is a connection between two models. And there's one-to-many relations, many-to-many relations, and one-to-one relations. This is an example of a one-to-many. So a team has many users. And then if you looked at the members, you don't necessarily know if you haven't seen the user model, but it is at least a one-to-many, and it could be a many-to-many depending on what the user model looks like. Does anybody have questions on this? No? All right, this is the syntax for relations. So yeah, this shows you that it's a one-to-many relation because a user has one team specified by the team ID, and then the actual model of the team is a relation based off of the field team ID, this team ID in the user model, and then it references team ID in this team model. Does that make sense? So let's say I had a team. Let's say I had a team equals, and then just a team ID of a team ID. And then you have a user that has a team ID that references this team's team ID as a team ID. And so when you look up the user's team, it's going to look through the team table and find the team ID, or find the team that has the same team ID as the one that you specify inside the user. This is a little confusing because the team ID is named the same here, but if the user had a, let's say, team identifier, just to be more verbose, this field would be team identifier, but this reference would stay as team ID because it's referencing this team ID. And that's pretty much as complicated as Prisma gets. So hopefully you guys are able to understand that. There are some things like you can specify unique constraints on objects. So no two users will have the same email. It's the same with no two users will have the same ID. But multiple users could have the same first name, last name, combination of the two. You're not specifying any constraint on that. All right. So that was the introduction to Prisma. The way that Launchpad works is we're now going to do a walkthrough of what we just learned. So if I escape, can everybody navigate to this folder in their code? So src backend, src Prisma, and then the schema.prisma file. You're also able to find it by going to the top bar in VS Code and searching for the file name. And you'll see it says schema.prisma. Is this too small? Do I need to make it bigger? This is pretty big. All right. You don't have to worry about this stuff. This is Prisma blah. That's why I gave it to you. Basically saying that your provider is Postgres. You could change this to SQLite or whatever other database that you are using that Prisma supports. Yes. Are we just opening like this is in Launchpad. Do you have Launchpad cloned? I think I'm going to need you to come into this room back here. Also, can I get another tech lead in here? Just any of you? You can join them. Yeah. What is the error? Oh, another. I think we're out of chairs. I know. All right, can you go up to the? I know there's chairs definitely on the third floor. That's where we had our meeting.
I was talking to you, by the way, on Slack.
Oh yeah. Jason. Okay. What was the question?
So I had an error in my Prisma called TS file. TS file saying that I can't find the
Yeah, run yarn prisma :generate. That should probably fix it. But yeah, so you guys, when you set up your, when you guys set up your environment, you probably all got the error that when you ran yarn prisma reset, that the Prisma schema was empty, and that's because it is empty. There's nothing here. We're going to add things here. So what we're going to add a project that has a title, a description, image URLs, skills, a GitHub URL, the date it was created, the date it was uploaded, the date it was deleted, the user who created it, and the user who deleted it. And then we're also going to add a user who has a username, an email, a role, a title, a bio, an image URL, a GitHub link, and a LinkedIn link. So basically how I would go, if I'm going to actually, I wonder, can I split screen? These are your requirements. So you guys would probably get a ticket. Oh my God. You guys would probably, why is it going big on that side? That's the opposite of what I want. So if I go like this, bigger. All right. Well, you guys probably can't. I could zoom out, but then I can't see everything. Let me get that. Definitely. You'll probably get, if you guys are working in the schema, you'll get a ticket that tells you all the fields that are required for your model. And it'll look a lot like this. This is kind of from an abstracted level of what we need in the application to display to the user. We need a project and we need a user. So we're going to start with a user because a project has users and you can't reference something that doesn't exist. So we're going to create a model user, open bracket, and a user has a username, which will be a string. It has an email, which will be a string, has a role, which actually, I think we might need to define a role type. So in here, you also have enums for a role. And for our sake, we're just going to say we have an admin and we have a guest, and that's it. And then for this role, we can reference that role enum that we just declared. What is this error validating? Oh, yeah. Could have a title. So if you're currently employed, whatever your title is. A bio, which is going to be another string. An image URL, which is another string. You can't store images in a database, but you can store your references to images there. A GitHub link, which will be a string, and a LinkedIn link, which will be another string. If I save this, should auto format. If you guys have Prettier installed, it might not, but that's not a big deal. You'll see we have an error. Error messages are very important in all of CS. Read the error messages. It will oftentimes tell you exactly what you need to do. So this is saying error validating model user. Each model must have at least one unique criteria that has only required fields. Either mark a single field with @id, @unique, or add a multi-field criterion with @id or @unique to the model. So we're going to do just that. We're going to add an ID, which is @id. And then similar to our slides, if we go back, we can see we have @id, and then we're going to default it to be an auto increment. Why is this upset? This field declaration, it is missing. Oh yeah. You also need to specify that it's an int if you're auto incrementing. So yeah. Does that make sense, everyone? Anybody have any questions? No? Good. Oh yeah.
Wait, so like does auto increment just make it so that every time you add like a username, email, role, or something like that, like it doesn't give you an error?
So whenever you create a user, this ID is going to be one above the previous count of the users that have been made. So the first user you make will have an ID of 1. The second user you make will have an ID of 2. The third user you make will have an ID of 3. Similarly, and better practice, you can define a string and you can set the default to be a UUID, which is a universally unique identifier. This is a string type, and this is like a 128-bit hex string that theoretically will never ever be duplicated ever. And it's some math I don't understand, but you can do that as well. And that's typically better practice to have UUIDs instead of IDs, or instead of auto incrementing integers. But you know, I'm gonna keep it like that. So you guys can change that if you would like. You don't have to. So The next thing we have to make is a project. So model project that similarly will have to have an ID, and I'm going to make it a UID as well. It has a title, so I'm going to make that. I keep doing that syntax. Description, string, image URLs, which will be an array of strings, and you define that with the braces, I think that's what they call them. Skills, similarly, will be an array of strings. GitHub URL will just be a string. The date it was created, so date created is defined. You can have a date time in Prisma. You can also default it to be now. Yes. And now is in reference to the time that this is created. Does that make sense? So the goal of Prisma is to take things that are can be kind of complicated in SQL and make them easy to read and easy to understand at a glance, and then not have to worry about the SQL later on. I have to zoom out. I can't. How do I move? I literally can't see. There we go. I guess data was created and data was updated are the same thing. So we don't really need that. But date deleted, date time. And so you can't just create something that, you know, is automatically deleted. I mean, you could, but you want it to be deleted or not to be deleted. So you can define that with a question mark. Can anybody tell me what the question mark means? Huh? Huh? Kind of. But I heard somebody say nullable, optional. Yeah, the same thing. It basically means it can exist or it cannot exist, if that makes sense. So conceptually, if you have a project, it can either be deleted or it cannot be deleted. And we can infer that by whether or not this date deleted object or this date deleted field exists. If it does exist, then it has been deleted. If it does not exist, then it is not deleted. Then we also have the user who created it. So if we remember from our relations, what are the two fields that we will need to add for a relation, for a user? Who can tell me that?
User ID.
Yep. And that's all right. We need the user ID and we need the user. And for verboseness, since we'll have two users on this model, we'll have the user created ID and the user created. And you can specify the type by saying user. And actually, if we go back to our relations model, you can see this is kind of backwards because the user now has multiple projects. So we'll say a relation with fields. What will fields be?
User created ID.
Yeah, user created ID. And then our references, well, comma, will be what? Griffin?
ID.
Yes, ID. And you see it autofills it right there. You could also, you could specify username, but we're not going to do that. ID. And then similarly, we will do the same thing for the user deleted ID, except this time, what will be different? Anybody know? What will be different between this and the user created? Conceptually, the fact that it is about a user who deleted this item.
Nullable.
It will be nullable. Because if nobody has deleted the project, then you will not have a user who has deleted it. All right. And now we're getting some errors. Error validating model project. Ambiguous relation detected. The fields user created and user deleted in model project both refer to user. Please provide different relation names for them by adding @relation name. So that is basically saying we need to add the name field to this. So we're going to say this is the user created. And then we're going to say this is the user deleted. Now we're getting another error. Error validating user created in model project. The relation field user created on model project is missing an opposite relation field on the model user. Either run Prisma format or add it manually. Can anybody tell me what this error message might mean that we have to do? So since SQL is a relational database, whenever you make a relation to one object, you have to have an equal relation on the project you are making a relation to, so you can access them back and forth. So what do we think we need to do here in our schema? Yeah, we need to add the relation to the user, and it looks like it automatically added that when I formatted. Yeah, if you press command, if you save, it'll automatically add it, but that's not how we want to do it. We want to say our created projects are going to be a project, or it will be an array of projects, because you could create many projects. And we want to say on our relation, our name is user created. And we can see it's all nice and happy. But we need to do the same thing for our deleted projects. User deleted. Did I mess something up? Uses the schema. Oh, yeah. Wait. Oh, well, that shouldn't be an issue. That's the issue. If the user ID is optional, then the user also has to be optional in case there's no ID. All right. That is the end of the walkthrough. So you guys now, and I can, does anybody need me to leave this up here or go to, yeah, I'll make this, well, yeah. Well, for those who are finished, I'll make this bigger now. There we go. Please zoom out. Yeah. You're going to create the experience schema. So an experience has a title, a description, a company name, a location, image URLs, a start date, an end date, date that it was updated. Oh, this is updated. I read this as uploaded. I might have dyslexia. You don't really need that. We're going to get rid of this. Yeah. End date, date that it was created, date it was deleted, the user who created it, and the user who deleted it. So it'll be very similar to projects, except it'll have some slightly different fields, and you'll have to add those relations. So we're going to let you do this on your own, and we'll be walking around answering questions as needed. Yeah, tech leads.
I wasn't.
Really?
Yeah. There more? Just because my weekend was.
I think that's.
Hayden, is this the end or is there more content?
There's more.
There's more content.
Yeah.
I don't know what I got wrong. Thank you, I appreciate it. Like when I first for creative projects. Yeah, so it's and all we need is make the name match so the user created. Oh, this one is yours. Oh, it got rid of one red line. Are you? You got rid of one line? Yeah. I don't see any errors. Oh, that's right. I mean, I don't know if we need it. I just. Can we put an ID?
All right, everybody should have access to the slides now.
Oh, no. Okay. I don't know. You might be good. Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. You're in. Hey, you're in. Just so you know, my roommate did put me on.
Yeah. Just copy paste that into the you have to Everybody knows that they have a Gmail account with @husky.nu.edu. everyone has a Google account with that extension or whatever you call it. Does anybody need me to share the code again? No. Just what I did. You do? Yeah. So which one? Use. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. The slides are in Slack. It's software Launchpad. Yeah. I sent the link in Slack. Yeah, I don't really know. Yeah, ORS. That's like there's like SQL alphabet. There's like that's Python. For TypeScript though, in my opinion, Prisma's the best, and it's like the area. Yeah. So you have two experiences named the same thing. If I got one copy of all of that, yeah. So you have the created user and the deleted user. You have to do the same thing because you yeah. One second. Is anybody else deactivated on Slack? No? Okay. Yeah.
It's not like a file that it just like
If you maybe you find it, I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, never mind. Just got it.
Actually, okay.
Oh yeah, that's what I did, bro.
I asked Alex too. I don't think Yeah, it should be good.
That's what I assume.
The glory is nobody has to know anything about SQL. Well, for the most part, very rare conditions. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. But it's just because we didn't have you guys should be able to yarn Prisma generate now, and an error in auth.utils.ts will go away. What?
If you're done, should we be doing anything? It's like,
No. You can start on taking homework.
or like you say, is it deleted or no?
I don't. Do you know Prisma? Yeah. So just we'll have to wait for everybody. If you can help other people.
Yeah, he did.
All right.
Yeah.
Who is still working? Is everybody still working? Are you good? Yeah.
I know, right? I didn't believe it. Well, it's not like empty, but you didn't have to wait for anything. This is what it back to back to back. That's always the best.
Yeah, so they got cameras.
Yeah, they got everything on there. I just started getting actually, no, let's because then it's gonna be pretty like crowded. Yeah. You get stuck in with a 2-hour workout. Wait, you're like, yo. Yeah, well, you told me, man. I know more information why you do that. Yeah, I told you. Yeah, but you were the one.
Wait, I can't come back here.
I want to get out of the next semester. So I want to get in before I
All right, I think who has finished? Raise your hand if you finished. Okay. It still seems like some people are working through it, so I'll start. I'll start at 7:50.
This might be like,
All right. I'm going to go over the next part of this part or workshop. So Prisma Client, I'm sure you guys have been seeing this in a lot of places, or I've been hearing about the Prisma Client. So the Prisma Client is the TypeScript side of Prisma that allows us to interact with our models that we declare. So it reads our schema file and it auto-generates code that we're able to call, and it creates an API that we're able to interact with. So you declare a new Prisma client, and then in there you're able to say Prisma.modelName.operation with your data that is required. So if we wanted to create a team from the previous team model, we would say Prisma.team.create, and then team name, budget, and description. And then it's going to return to you the created team. And in that created team, you can access the team name, but you can't access, it's going to tell you that you can't access the color because there's no color on a team. So it's going to give you that error that color is not a field that you're able to access, which is really nice. So it prohibits you from trying to do something nonsensical. Unlike JavaScript, which will totally let you do something nonsensical and then you want to kill yourself. So migrations, this isn't important, but whenever you create a change in your schema file, you have to run a migration to get your database in sync with it. So actually, you guys can all do this right now. If you run yarn Prisma migrate, you might have to run yarn Prisma migrate dev, but yarn Prisma migrate like this, and then it should prompt you to type in a name for the migration. At least I'm hoping. I can do that too. I can do that with you guys. Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to ask you to enter in a name for the migration. We can just call this a init or anything random. Yeah. How do the terminal down here? So you can press the. You can do it in a bunch of ways. You can do view. You can go up here if you're on Mac and go view, and then terminal. You can also, if you don't see it, you can, like if I don't see it, you can go to the bottom here and pull up like this, and you should be able to see it. And if you just see something like this, like waiting for files to change, you can also press this plus button up here, and that'll create a new terminal. But it's the exact same thing as going to terminal and then whatever, going into this directory. But yeah. So everybody do that. But that creates the migrations, and you can actually see it's really cool. This is where Prisma is really cool. You go to the migrations folder that was just created, and you'll see this migration.sql. And look at this. This is SQL. You didn't write any of this. You only wrote TypeScript code, and it generated this entire file for you. You don't have to know a shred of SQL, and this will do it for you. All right. So yarn Prisma reset. also works, but you should do that once you've generated your migration. It'll apply the migrations to your database, and then it will also trigger a seed command that you can declare, which actually you guys will do for homework. Database operations, much like APIs, fall under CRUD, so create, read, update, and delete. It'll be the same thing. Like if you're looking here, you'll see prisma.team.create, prisma.team.delete, prisma.team.update, prisma.team.find unique, find many, find whatever. That's get or retrieve. Yeah, you can use create or create many. If you're creating many of something, you can use create many. If you're creating one thing, you can use create. Fields with the question mark, we talked about that, are optional and they don't need to be included. But if somebody fills out a form with a description of a team, you're going to want to include that when you create the team in the database. And then fields with default will also get filled in with you for the time created or whatever. This is an example of a read functions. So you can find first. Both of these cases are find first. It'll return the team. Declare find first where team name is name. So since this isn't a unique index, you have to say find first because there could be many teams with the same team name. And then what's interesting is if you try to access the team members, so if I go back to the team, you see the team does have members, like that's part of the object. But when you retrieve it from schema or from the database, and this is important, you have to explicitly tell Prisma to include the members because this is an additional lookup operation. You have to tell Prisma to include it. By default, Prisma will only include native types. That's Booleans, ints, strings, whatever, datetimes. It will not include other relations. And then once you do include it, you'll see that error will go away. And if you hover over this, it'll tell you cannot find, like this field does not exist on this type. But now you can access those members there if you include them. Update, you specify which one you want to update with the where, just like you specify which one you want to get with the find. And then you supply the data, the updated data. So we're updating this user who has the email viola@prisma.io to have the name Viola the Magnificent. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions on that? No? Okay, sweet. And then delete, we don't really delete. We typically update and then supply a date deleted. That's called a soft delete. That's typically better because if you have, if you try to delete a user who has projects, you would end up having to cascade that deletion to the projects and it would destroy your entire database. So it's easier to just add a field like deleted by user that the user will still exist in the database, but we won't expose that on the front end or when we retrieve them in our APIs. All right, homework for next week. We want you guys to create seed data for 3 projects and 3 experiences using these functions. So namely the create function. You can see an example of that right here with a team. You'll do something very similar for projects and experiences. In fact, I have a little bit of time. Do people want me to go over an example of projects and then you guys can do the experiences? Yeah, so or that. In your seed.ts file, you'll see this template here. In this perform seed function, you can do pretty much anything. So we're already importing Prisma from .prisma. You don't have to declare that. But like right here, you would just do simply, const team1 or const project1 equals new project or equals await Prisma dot project. And the way you get this IntelliSense, you have to yarn Prisma generate or reset or migrate. It'll all generate the Prisma for you or the Prisma client for you. Await the project and then await the creation of the project. Create where your data is going to be. What is our data going to be? Going to look at the schema. We're going to see we need a title. So awesome Launchpad project. Our description is going to be coded and awesome personal website for NER. Our image URLs we don't have to supply because it'll just initialize to an empty string. Our skills, let's say we have Prisma that we know now. We can add on to this later. And we also know TypeScript now. This is all TypeScript. So if you guys didn't know TypeScript, you now will. GitHub URL. I'm just going to probably take. You guys can use your personal GitHub thing, your template. I don't have one, so I'm going to take the. I'm going to take the Launchpad URL. And this has, look, 83 repos. 83 people have cloned Launchpad. That's so awesome. Where did I go? Here. And then we don't need to specify the date created because it's going to default. We don't want to delete it. We actually need to const admin user equals await. We need to, what I'm doing is we have to add a user for our user created. So we'll do the same thing. Create user, data. And then is this information. So we need a username. What's a good username? Who has a gaming username that they're very proud of? Who wants to share their PS5 username?
I'll say my friend.
Okay.
Pickle Picker 056.
Pickle Picker 056. Goated. Email. Let's say picklepicker@aol.com. Let's say their role is going to be an admin. Their bio will be I love picking pickles and gaming. What's your name?
His name's Brian.
What's your name?
I'm Aaron.
With Aaron? Is that right? Aaron?
Yeah.
We do have to supply an image URL, but we're just going to leave that blank for now because we don't have any images yet. We'll get to that later. A GitHub link. Does he have a GitHub? I'm not going to make you expose his GitHub, but let's see. Pickle Picker. That's so. Oh wait, not in Launchpad. Let's see. Are there any users? No users with Pickle Picker. Oh my goodness. Whatever. We'll take this random pickle thing. And we'll use that. And then LinkedIn URL. I don't know. I guess I can use my LinkedIn. Or Jason. Oh yeah, if people supplied their LinkedIns, I looked at them. So I went through everyone's applications. There's me. And then, yeah. Now, why is this mad? Did I miss something? Type of admin. Property title is missing. Oh, I missed title. Let's say Chief Pickle Picker. There we go. That's how helpful error messages are. Oh my goodness. JavaScript, you just be like, what is wrong? All right, and now our user created. You can actually do this special syntax. I think it'll let me do this, where you can say, is it link? No, I can't remember what it is, but I think you can just say, oh my goodness. You can say user ID is going to be admin user dot ID, and yeah. Now we have created a user and a project. So your homework is to make 2 more projects and 3 experiences. You guys should all have that done by next week. That's it. It's like 1,000 degrees. Why is it 77 degrees? I'm sweating like a friggin' pig. It's fine. I don't really care. All right. Stop share.